Today I'm going to talk about the neo-noir conventions that I used or subverted in my trailer for Underhand. The first one I'm going to discuss is low-key lighting and chiaroscuro lighting. You can see here in this shot that we've used low-key lighting to highlight these three characters here, and we decided to use low-key lighting as it symbolises the dark themes of their drug abuse, and obviously this is a key convention in neo-noir of using a theme that is slightly corrupt. It suggests like immorality, and the low-key lighting helps to symbolise that. If you move on, we've also then gone to use low-key lighting in this shot, and again it's to represent the same idea. And then further on through this sequence, you can see that we've used low-key lighting at the beginning of here, and that's low-key lighting. It's obviously filmed at night, and again this is these dark and mysterious themes, and then when you move on to the next shot, this is using chiaroscuro lighting by having that extreme combination of light and dark. This is to, on one hand, represent the neo-noir convention, and therefore an audience who are a fan of this genre will clearly pick that out from the trailer, and therefore this may be an aid of them, a marketing aid of them going to then watch the film, as they can see that the producers and the directors have clearly understood these conventions and have used them to code the genre. But it's also to suggest this idea of moral boundaries, light and dark, and that's all symbolised within the lighting. Moving on, there's again low-key lighting here, and this is actually the first introduction of the femme fatale. So the low-key lighting is really significant. It's obviously she's a very dark, cold, manipulating character, and you would not want her framed in natural lighting or high-key lighting, as the low-key lighting represents these themes in her nature, and straight away an audience will become wary of her. They understand that there's probably more hidden qualities to her that we don't know. Moreover, in this shot we've used low-key lighting to actually create a shadow. And you can see here a very clear shadow of a man, but his face and his head is hidden, so you don't know who it is. And you can see the gun, which is another convention of violence and crime. And again, this is to draw in that audience that understand these conventions. They can pick out the genre. It's very obvious this is a neo-noir, and it's using slightly different cinematography that's going to be interesting and captivating from the outset. Next, the convention I'll talk about is frames within frames. You can see at the beginning here, we have slightly used the frame here to show the young child, James, and he's coming here and he runs out into the doorway. And by framing him in that sense, it gives this idea, firstly, that he's an important character. We need to watch out for him. He's going to become clear through the plot that he has a major influence, which is actually that he's a motive for the main character. But it also gives this idea of this blockage with the doorway, that there's something about this character that's different in neo-noir, and that is the fact that he is innocent, he's pure, and it's disconnecting ourselves from that, because all of the other characters that come clear have this underlying corruption to them. Moving on, we then also frame within a frame with the main protagonist in the background, clearly framed in the doorway. This is significantly highlighting the fact that he is left in the background whilst his ex-wife here and his son are walking away from him. The frame represents that this is a key moment in the plot, and it may be that this changes the character's nature and his outset, and especially in this film, this is the moment when his kid is being taken away. This changes everything for him. This gives him the this persuades him to go and take this undercover role, and that leads to oncoming events which completely destroy his life further and further, and actually end up having an impact on this little boy here. Moving on, this one isn't actually a doorway or a particular frame, but we have actually used this wall in the background to frame this main character, Jordan. He is essentially the male antagonist in the film, if you ignore the femme fatale, but we framed him by using our understanding of the rule of thirds and having him in this third here, and he's, this makes him stand out. It highlights that he's a main character, that we've taken care in the framing of the shot, and it's all used the wall. He's got a background, there's nothing else going on, it's just him in this shot. And that is all to highlight this main character. He's another one to watch, and that's obviously because he is a bad influence on Ross, the main character. He is the leader of this drug group, which is the pivotal, the beginning of this corruption to this character and how he gets dragged into it. Moving on, another convention that we've used is long tracking shots. If you watch this clip here, you will see that there is a tracking shot whilst the car moves away. And this, and we decided to use this long tracking shot firstly because it is a convention of neo-noir, and that's still the genre, but also this is the longest, possibly one of the longest shots that it features in the trailer, and that's because it emphasises his movement away from this life where he is stable, he's happy, he's got a job, he's got a family, even if that is a little bit broken, and he's now going into this new life where he is deceiving himself by going undercover, and it is the moment where everything changes for him. We've then gone on to use the convention of obscured scenes. You can see here in this shot that the light again is obscure in this character. You can't see him clearly. You can't work out, not just with the costume masking his face, but with the lighting you can't see who this character is. And yet, after the title, you then see that he is holding a gun. This gives this sense of danger, violence, and crime. He is clearly going to murder this character here, who again is obscured by the gun, but also the focus of the camera. And we use shallow focus to draw the attention on the gun and not the face, and that is to create this mystery. So it's given a sense to the audience that this is going to happen, but they don't know what character it is and why it happened, and that will be a reason to go and see the film. Another shot where we've obscured is this here with the smoke, and again this firstly is a link between our trailer, our poster and our film magazine, where all faces have been obscured by smoke, and that's been cigarette smoke, and this is given this idea and this theme of hidden identity, and this is all to emphasise that. Moving on, I've used another convention of Dutch angle. This is very slightly, again in this shot, you can just see it's slightly tilted. It's obscured by the door frame, and it also it's not stable. It moves with the child as he runs, and this is all to give that sense to the audience that this is the beginning of the unsettlement to the equilibrium. He is now running to his mum, where she's going to take him away, as Ross has lost custody of him, and this causes Ross to break down further and further, and he no longer feels in this secure, equal life, because he's lost the one thing that's been keeping him happy. Another really, really key convention is crime and violence, and the first real introduction of that is through this whole narration, which I'm going to play.
Don't move. Keep looking ahead. You can't be seen talking. There's a growing problem in Brighton with the uprising of a large gang.
So here establishes there's a problem with crime. There's obviously a drug group that's we decided to use that crime because that's from our audience feedback. They all said that that's a real contemporary issue that is in reality. So by using that idea, we've coded it so it's relatable to an audience. It's a really relevant idea and theme, and it's showing the dark sides to that. And that is where the neo-noir, the underlying sense of immorality and moral integrity is given.
That are somehow smuggling drugs from outside the UK. We believe their leader goes by the name Jordan. He's wanted by the police, not only for drug trafficking, but also suspected murder.
So here, by him saying suspected murder, that's playing to the convention of violence. Obviously, this character here, Jordan, is the antagonist, or at least one of them. He has committed murder. That's an extreme violence. It's very dangerous, and it's already warning the audience right at the beginning of the trailer that this character isn't safe. And yet, we are going to see our main character get involved with him. The narration then goes on to tell Ross that he's going undercover, which will emphasise this idea of crime and violence and the battle between that. Ross is trying to battle against the crime, and yet he's getting involved with it. Moving on, the crime and violence is also showing in the trailer. Here, you see the gun again in the same shot that I've already talked about. Clear violence, he's going to murder this character here, and that's all emphasising that. There's then, if you carry on watching, the following sequence after this.
What's happened? He's been stabbed.
This highlights a physical attack and physical violence. It's obviously showing from the range from guns, physical, emotional violence, and then the crime of drugs and murder. This film has got a sense of an action genre to it. There's a lot going on, but the fact that the protagonist is involved in all of these acts of violence and crime gives this sense of, is he really good? Is he good? Because he seems as if he's verging on being evil, and there's that battle between that, and I will talk about it later, but it's his personal code. Then if you move on, you listening to his thoughts.
That's my way in. He's the one I need. Should I kill him? No. I have to.
This suggests now how the protagonist has got so involved with what was being foreshadowed earlier on in the trailer that he's now considering violence and crime himself by murdering this character that's been earlier established, yet we don't really know his role in the film, and that's something that would become apparent if you were to watch the feature length. This is breaking his moralities, because yes, he's in there to discover and hopefully break down this drug group, but he's not there to commit murder. That is something that isn't allowed, and yet he is thinking it and feels that he has to, and it suggests that this character is corrupt. And again, the last one I'm going to talk about, which is important, is here. You see both characters flicking between guns. It's this idea of the violence between these particular characters. And then the gunshots, and then their two faces showing suggests that maybe, and it's foreshadowing, that maybe one of these characters is going to die and the other is going to be the cause of that. But again, that's a marketing campaign. You would go and watch it because that's left you on a cliffhanger. What is going to happen? And moving on, the other convention is first-person voiceover narration, and as we've already looked, so I'm not going to play it again, that is a long bit here we use narration, but we haven't just seen, we see him talking here, but then it goes on, he carries on talking and we see the other shots. This is, as well as being a neo-noir convention of using these voiceovers, it's also a trailer convention, which I will talk about in a later evaluation piece, but this is a trailer convention as we quickly establish character, themes and events, and yet we are seeing all these images happen and having it efficiently heard by a voice. And this is efficient, it's quick, it sets the pace of the trailer, but it also gives out a lot of key information. Moving on, another convention is reflections, and you can clearly see that towards the end of the trailer, where you see the character here shouting into the mirror, "What am I doing?" And this way it symbolises how he's reflecting on himself and his actions and suggesting that he's been immoral, he's done something bad, and he's now questioning himself. And then the next one, you can see her in the mirror, and you can see her face, but she's got a hood up. Again, this idea of masking who she actually is. It's this idea of deception. Is she deceiving herself by falling in love with Ross, or is she deceiving him by falling in love? And this mirror is symbolising that effect. Is when she's with Ross and she's in love with him, is that really her, or is she manipulating him to get her own way? She's mirroring this quality of her that is actually false. And we've also in the mirror included a clock, and this is given that essence of time. There's this pressure of time that is apparent throughout the film if you were to watch it. Ross has got this pressure of time of completing his job, and Lila feels this pressure of time of getting out of the drug group. Moreover, there was one convention that we did slightly subvert, and that is having a cynical, world-weary protagonist. So sometimes in Noir, the protagonist will be cynical from the outset. He's always got something that's bad. However, we actually established at the beginning that our character is a family man, he's got a secure job, and he genuinely loves his son. And so that way we're not seeing him as corrupt. He isn't cynical and he isn't well-read because he has something to live for. However, when that equilibrium is broken by him being taken away, you can see in this letter that he has actually had an alleged alcoholism history, given the sense that actually we've now conformed to this convention because underlying, he isn't completely stable, he isn't completely happy. And then from the following events that appear in the trailer, it's obvious that from now, the one thing that was keeping him grounded and keeping him safe, he's let go of all his previous moralities and he has become cynical and well-weary. And that is all events from alcohol abuse, lost custody, he then gets too involved in the drug group and he quits his job. And moving on, another really important convention of Noir is the femme fatale, and we actually left her to be the last character that is introduced in the trailer, and we did that because she's pivotal to the plot and the narrative. She completely turns everything around because before, Ross is seen to be successfully getting into his job, he's got into the drug group, he's made friends with them. However, as soon as she is introduced into the trailer and also into the plot, if you to watch the film, you see that it starts to break down. This is when you start to see more violence, you start to see him reflecting himself in the mirror, you start to see him questioning what to do. And her given that option, is it him? It's either me or him.
It's either him or me.
And that was all given this qualities of the femme fatale, being this manipulated, controlling woman. We've also used the convention of smoking, which again is a link between our three texts, and it's masking her face. She's also heavily made up with makeup, with red lipstick, and her costume is a black tight lace dress, and this is this idea of her using her sexuality to manipulate the character. And you later on see in the trailer that she says that she's falling in love, and that is all suggested to be a trick. And it also gives up this theory of male gaze. She becomes attractive to a male audience. However, this may also trick the male audience because they feel that she's likeable due to her appearance, which would then make them relate to the character of Ross or how he fell for it. moreover, the last three things I want to talk about is complex plots, false accusations, and personal code. So we've complied to the complex plot convention, as there's multiple characters in the film, and they're also complex character types. The femme fatale, there's so much to her that we don't know, which is highlighted in the trailer with the smoke, her hidden quality, the fact that you never see her full body, and then with the protagonist, he's obviously very complex from the start to him being a very secure man, and then him slowly breaking down to being a man that is shouting in front of the mirror and no longer knows what to do. However, we did subvert the convention of using analepsis, and that's flashbacks, and that's because we believe that having a chronological and linear narrative highlights the corruption of these characters in a more stronger sense, as you are able to see how each event has a leading effect on the character and what the outcome of this. The false accusations and betrayal convention isn't a strong convention that we've used in the trailer. However, you do see this idea of murder, which is obviously betraying someone, and then that last shot of the two characters with guns gives this, it suggests to the audience that they are going to betray each other, or at least one of them will. And then just to finish off, the other convention is personal code, and I think that is highlighted the strongest during the character muttering to himself. Let me just find it. Here, you see, as I showed before, you see him questioning whether to kill this character, and that emphasises personal code. He is wanting to do his job, however, he's considering murder for it, so he's doing wrong things but for the right reason. Again, that's emphasised by this shot here. When you hear her say it's either him or me, it suggests that the motive is his son and he actually wants to do right by him. However, this is leading him to do wrong things. So thank you for listening, and goodbye.